Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. It's week 17 of NFL season, and I've got a first look on DraftKings for you to help build an NFL lineup. Now, it's week 17, so there's a lot more narratives in play for week 17. There's a lot more anecdotal things that we're going to have to look at. There's a lot of stories that are going to play into things, and it's Monday. It's Monday morning at 11 a.m. for me on the West Coast right now. So here's what's at issue. We don't have all the list of players that are going to sit out this weekend. Most of the teams have everything to play for, save like the Saints and a couple of others of the ones that are going to be playing for playoff berths and seeding. And some of the teams that are near the that are out of the playoffs and playing for next year, we don't know who they're sitting and who they're not. So this lineup could very drastically change by the time Sunday approaches. The last few weeks, a lot of the players that we've had in the first look lineup have shown up. If you watch the first look versus the recap stream, you can see that a lot of those lineups were highly correlated. A lot of players that we thought were going to be in play on Monday were definitely in play on Sunday. And even if they weren't in my main lineup, they were highly allocated throughout my tournament lineups for that weekend. Week 17, everything's off the table. So everything could change. Things that I'm looking at. One, we really have to look hard all week long to find out players that have contract incentives, things that they're going for, right? Players that are going for team records, players that are going for league records, players that are going to try and lead the league in a category, and whether or not their teams are going to try and help force feed them the ball in those situations to get there. We've also seen the other side of that. A couple of years ago with Mark Ingram, who had a contract incentive if he got a certain amount of snaps or a certain amount of carries on the year, and the Saints benched him. So Ingram, who was in a really good spot, did not get there on that week 17 because the team sat him, and he was visibly upset on the weekend because these players know what their incentives are, but we don't always have that idea. So it cost him like $500,000. This is what we're going to use the Twitter machine for this week, is to find out as much as we can. And when I publish my article on Thursday for Best Buys on ESPN Plus, hopefully you guys read that every week. If you don't, go get ESPN Plus and Google it, Best Buys week, whatever. I will hopefully have some stuff in there, as well as the Friday Q&A on Twitch. If you want to join me live on stream, click that description down below, the show more button. It'll have my Twitch stream up. Would love to meet some of you guys that watch these videos on YouTube. I do appreciate you tuning in week after week, and I know that everybody can't be there exactly when I'm live, and that's why I publish these things on YouTube for you guys to watch passively on demand whenever you want. So if you would be so kind, drop a like on this video, hit subscribe, ring that notifications bell, get on over to Twitch and see me over there, because I'd love to talk to you when I'm live instead of just reading what you write in the comments section down below. And let's get after it for week 17 as best we can on a Monday morning with the partial information that we have. So looking at quarterbacks, we've got pretty much everybody in play. The one player that I don't think will play is Drew Brees. Okay? With the Saints basically having their position locked up, they have everything that they need in the NFC. If Brees plays, I could see him playing like a preseason sort of schedule where he doesn't play everything over the course of the entire game, right? If he plays, maybe he just plays a couple of series of the first quarter. Then they bring in Bridgewater, they bring in Taysom Hill. So Brees probably won't play much in this game. I could see the running backs, whether it's Ingram or Kamara, not playing a full load and them going back up. Same with Michael Thomas. Rest your starters in a game like this. So I'm probably not going to be heavy on the Saints because they don't have much to play for. We could find out throughout the course of the week. And their coach has been pretty straightforward with us over the last few years of guys who are going to play. The coach speak. There's certain coaches you can trust when they say stuff to the media, and certain coaches you can't. The Saints coach has been very forthcoming with information in the past when he says, these guys will play, these guys will not play, this player will start. This player will be good for you fantasy players. You should draft him, like Michael Thomas last season, 2017 season. He's been, he's going to be heavily active. It's not like Pete Carroll, who gives us basically nothing. It's the exact opposite. I could go through this entire list of quarterbacks, or I could just do that. And that seems like it's probably the right thing to do, is just play Pat Mahomes. Going for 50 touchdown passes on the season in a game that they still must win. And the way that the NFL schedules these games, they put them all at the same time, like the players in the same division, teams in the same division, all play at the same time. And The Chiefs need to win, because if they lose and the Chargers win, then they move back and are going to have to play and not get a bye week. So the Chiefs are in a situation where they're playing for home field. They're in a situation where they're playing for a bye. They're in a situation where they must win a game. And it's against a team that's god-awful and that we want to stream against all the time. So the Chiefs probably going to try and, just hang another 30 points on somebody. Why not the Oakland Raiders, while they're still the Oakland Raiders? Mahomes going to get to 5,000 yards, most likely. Going to get to 50 touchdowns on the year, most likely. A historic season, albeit from a first-year starter. 25 fantasy points in play for 7K. He should be 8K in my opinion, so you're even getting a discount at a really high volume or a high salaried player. Deshaun Watson against Jacksonville, probably no. Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, I could see it. They do have to win this game, 7K. I'd rather go with Mahomes at 7,100. If there was a 500 gap, I could argue it, but at that price, I can't. Phillip Rivers, 6,400. They do have to win this game. Same with Jared Goff going against San Francisco. And Jared Goff with massive home road splits, playing at home in the Coliseum in Los Angeles, 28.6 points per game at home versus 15.9 on the road. Goff at 6,200 is most certainly viable if you want to come down off of that 71, if you need to save a little bit of money. And the Mahomes to KELCE stack, or the Mahomes to Hill stack, also much higher price than a Goff to Woods stack, which would be the stack that I would prefer on the Rams if that was the route to choose, if that was the lineup I was going to build right here. Russ Wilson, his efficiency's been ridiculous. I just can't. I want a piece of this Seahawks offense, but I don't want it to be Russ. Against Arizona, we know what Arizona does. We want to play defenses against Arizona. We want to play running backs against Arizona. That's probably the route that we're going to go. Jameis, Brady at 6K. That's kind of been where he's been, but he hasn't really had a fantastic fantasy year, although 25 touchdowns on the year. Again, 1 touchdown, 3 of the last 4 games. And they've got a full stable of running backs that they could just go to. Sony Michel really emerging. James White, a threat in the air, but also on the ground, and Rex Burkhead as well. Mitch Trubisky against Minnesota. In Minnesota, GPP only, not really a cash game play for me. Lamar Jackson at 5,600, I think gives us the ceiling that we want, but he's got to throw for a touchdown. He's got to score 1 on the ground, and this is the problem. You're getting enough rushing attempts, and at home against Cleveland in a game that they've got to win, they've gone from the pass heaviest team in the league to the rush heaviest team in the league. I don't want anybody on Cleveland. They're not going to have the ball very much. Baltimore will, and if you think that Lamar can scoot around this Cleveland defense, I do like the upside here. But he's got to get in on the ground if he's going to pay that off. Stafford against Green Bay. We have been streaming quarterbacks against Green Bay pretty much every single week. We did it last week with Darnold. This could be a nice bounce back spot for Stafford at 5,200. If you want to pair him with Galladay, I'm not against it, but not the main lineup look that I want, especially with the other guys that aren't that much more expensive and enough value out there to go get them. Because in week 17, running backs, you're going to find a lot of value. Now, Christian McCaffrey may play, he may not play, we may not have word. If he's playing, he's somebody that I'm going to want to have. As you can see here, he's got 845 receiving yards on the year. He's already set the record for receptions by a running back on a season with 106, breaking the record there. He is 155 receiving yards away from a 1,000 season. The double K. The 2K. Call him CMC 2K from now on. Okay? If he can get there. To get there, he's got to play. Right? Because you can't get 155 receiving yards if you're wearing street clothes on the sideline. So if he lines up, if he's going to play, and they're going to try and force this record his way, it's something we have to pay attention to. Yes, it's narrative driven. Yes, it's anecdotal. But it's week 17 and totally not out of the question for things like that to happen in the past. So Christian McCaffrey is somebody I'm looking at. Jerry Jones has said that the Cowboys are going to go all out in week 17. They're going to play all their players. Ezekiel Elliott, the highest volume running back in the league, 9K if you want to pay for him. But in week 17, I don't know that you have to in your main lineups because of everything else that's out there. And because there's going to be value running backs. I like Zeke Elliott. If I can find a way to fit him, I will. But I don't know that I need to. Melvin Gordon III in a must-win situation. And with his backups injured, could see massive volume against Denver, who has been tough. And Baltimore, one of the toughest defenses around. This could definitely be a 20 to 25 point day for Melvin Gordon. The passing game usage boosts him. Barkley, same thing. Kamara, if he's going to play, sort of the same thing. Now we have all these guys in the 7K, 6K range. Phillip Lindsay, love the big playability. Don't hate the matchup. Love that he's at home. Has gotten solid volume, but this is kind of boomer bust for me. Samuels has been priced up to a point where now he's a bit restrictive at 6,800. I don't hate it. I think that he's got kind of a 12, 13 point floor with the usage in the pass game and the usage in the running game against a bad defense and at home. I'd probably rather play Juju or Antonio Brown over Samuels now that he's priced up to this point, but Cincinnati matchup is way too juicy to kind of ignore. But in that same price range, give me the volume with Carson, please. You know, I know he's not going to have, or he's going to have spotty usage in the pass game, right? 0 targets, 6 targets, 0 targets, 4 targets. He kind of yo-yos in terms of whether he's involved in the pass game or not. But the volume that he sees on the ground and coming up against Arizona, who's been one of the softest defenses against opposing running backs on the year, is too good to ignore for 6,500. Seattle at home, that's the spot that I want right there. That's the first one. Now, we have an injury from last week that we do have to speak about, and it's the Atlanta Falcons. For those of you who have watched the stream and not just the YouTube videos, you know that I have not been on the Tevin Coleman train because of the volume that he has gotten. 10, 11, 10, 6, 8, yuck, gross. Bleh. I don't want that sort of volume. But now he's suffered a groin injury in the last game. There is nobody left at running back. Ito Smith is injured. Freeman's injured. Now Coleman's injured. There is literally nobody left. And Brian Hill, take this 60-yard run out fine. I don't care about the 100-yard bonus last week on 8 carries. That's not what I'm looking at. I'm projecting the fact that this guy against Tampa Bay is probably going to get 15 touches if he is really the only running back that's going to be there if they bring somebody up off the practice squad. If Coleman does not play, Brian Hill at 3,900 presents a very good opportunity for value for me from a first look perspective, and that's can totally change by the weekend. I understand that, so don't freak out on me in the comments down below that what are you doing with Brian Hill in your lineup? This is a projection play based on nobody else being able to be healthy for Atlanta right now, and I'll take the last man standing to get 15 touches against a Tampa Bay defense that is forgiving against running backs, and it allows us to spend at other positions that we want. Now, the last running back that I wanted to talk about is not on Atlanta. Is Elijah McGuire, who we played in Week 16. If you haven't checked out the recap video, please do. I go over my thought process there. You've seen 15 to 20 touches out of Elijah McGuire with 3 catches in each of the last 3 games. Again, a situation where there just isn't anybody else. He scored a touchdown, at least one, in each of the last 3 games. I'm not counting on the touchdown, but I love the volume for the price. At 5,300, yes, it's against New England. In New England, that is a detractor for me. But his pass game volumes should remain the same. Darnold's going to get work. They're getting the ball, the players on the outside. Robbie Anderson's going to be the toy. I think that Belichick's going to try and take away, and Elijah McGuire's volume should at least remain the same, and 15 to 20 touches for 5,300 is just too much volume to ignore at the price. I'll take Elijah McGuire. Plug him in. Yes, we can move Carson because I believe Carson plays in the afternoon, right? Yeah, they play at 125, so I'll move that around so I don't trigger the comments. We'll plug McGuire in at running back. We'll plug Carson in flex to give us that late flexibility that we want. Defense, fine. I'm just going to plug a cheap one there. Bills at home against Miami. Great. Grand. I'm in. Sign me up. I don't really spend that much time on defenses in the first look lineup. That's just kind of what I do. I want to plug in somebody that lets me figure out what I can do at the other positions. Now, we have a couple of tight ends that are going for the receiving record. To try and break Gronk's single season record. We have Kittle, who's got 1,228 yards, and I think he's 99 yards away, if my chat informed me correctly, to get there, to break Gronk's single season record. So that's in play. 100-yard bonus on DraftKings gives you plus 3 points, the amount of catches he's going to have to get to, and they should be able to try and force feed the ball to him. Even though the Rams are going to try and win this game, I could see teams just forcing things to certain players' way. It's happened in the past. Would not be surprised if that happened here. But also, we have Travis Kelce against Oakland in a must-win game for Kansas City at home. And he has 1,274 yards. So him breaking that record and possibly staying ahead of Kittle and having massive touchdown expectation against a team that can't stop anything from happening. How do I not play Travis Kelce at 7,200 and stack him with Mahomes, expecting them to score 30 points and hang another 30 bomb, maybe a 40 burger on another team this year? I'm going to plug Kelce in the first look and not look back, because I think that there's enough value out there to get it. Now, at wide receiver, Antonio Brown, very much in play this week. Everybody's talking about how he's having a down year. He's leading the league in touchdowns. I don't understand people. Julio Jones, leading the league in receiving yards, having a down year. Everybody hates Julio Jones. Don't understand people. I don't get it. All he does is catch touchdowns. Like the last half of this season. Michael Thomas, at home, has been a very, very good play. We highlighted this last week, but I don't know how many of their starters the Saints are going to play and for how long they're going to get them out there, as they do have everything locked up on this season, and it's just the playoffs that they have to play for. They can see no movement. They're locked in. So Thomas, probably a fade for me in week 17. Tyreek Hill in play, but at 8,400, I think it's a bit restrictive with the volume that guys like Jones and Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster and Hopkins, and especially Davante Adams. Let's just sort by fantasy points per game, and Davante Adams does not get highlighted by anybody pretty much every week of the season. We talked about on the Anti-Tinkercast before week 16 that I am on team never fade Davante, right? The guy just puts it up every single week. 24, 24 and a half, 21, 23, 17, 29, 21. The volume's been off the charts the last 4 weeks. 18, 13, 11, 13. Very high. One of the best in the league in terms of red zone targets, end zone targets, red zone market share on his team. 13 touchdowns on the year. Now, he doesn't have a chance to break the single season Packers record for touchdowns. He can break the single season catch record on the team, but he only needs 1 to tie that and 2 to break it, so that narrative doesn't really help us. But he does need 134 yards receiving to break the Packers single season receiving yards record. That's in play against Detroit, who you can pass the ball against. Yes, you will probably see a tough matchup, but it does not matter when you're Davante Adams and you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the pill. So I will take Davante Adams assuming that Aaron Rodgers plays this game. They will try to get him this record for 135 receiving yards in this game. With the volume that he sees, I could see them really trying to force feed him the ball and get him to the top of the Green Bay Packers receiving list for a single season. The narrative play this week to me is Davante Adams. I will take it, and I will try to find the volume elsewhere. That means we're going to have to find a mid-range. Now, Kenny Golladay, somebody I mentioned, would be in play for me, but I don't think that we have the salary available to play him in this lineup, so we're going to have to go south. I do like the matchup. I want to stream against Green Bay at every position as best I can. Last week with the Jets, with Herndon and Anderson and McGuire, anybody that we could get in against the Green Bay Packers is fine for me. I'm fine with Golladay this week, just can't afford him in this lineup. Calvin Ridley had a big day, not really thrilled with him. Golden Tate, same sort of thing, too many mouths to feed. Robbie Anderson, huge day last week, going to carry some of that ownership forward to this week, but at 5,600 and against New England, I'm not in on this, at least for cash games. The price hike is too much. He's going to see Gilmore, who's a very, very, very good cornerback as rated by PFF, and I think that he's the toy that Bill Belichick is going to try and take away from Sammy Darnold this week, and the price hike plus the ownership hike plus the people playing whack-a-mole, chasing this 22.6 and 32 fantasy point day is going to be too much for me to swallow with the increase in salary and the increase in ownership percentage. Well, probably not the increase. He was massively owned last week, but that ownership percentage is going to hang around this week. Probably not 55% owned in cash, but still probably 25% owned in tournaments. Unless I think that number is going to be under 10, which I kind of don't right now on Monday. That might change by the time the weekend comes around. Robbie Anderson, somebody that I'm not as excited to play in week 17 as I was in 16. DD Westbrook has seen a massive jump in volume. I do like him at 4,700, but the player that has seen a bigger jump in volume is DaeSean Hamilton. Taking over for Emmanuel Sanders, we spoke about this again on the Anti-Tinkercast on Sunday of week 14 about how I didn't think I had enough DaeSean Hamilton and I had 25% that week. 9 targets later that day, 12 targets later in week 15. what do we need here? He's 5K. He's getting peppered with targets. His athletic skill set and makeup greatly fit the role that he's in, and has a quarterback that over the last 2 seasons has thrown the vast majority of its targets to the player that's manning the slot. And right now that's DaeSean Hamilton. Everything that we thought would happen with DaeSean Hamilton in the slot has happened over the past couple of weeks with DaeSean Hamilton in the slot. And at 5K, I still think that we're getting a good amount of value here against the Chargers at home. I like DaeSean Hamilton in this spot. That leaves us with $4,300 to spend for a flex spot. Or sorry, for a wide receiver, not a flex. Tim Patrick, not interested in playing 2 Denver wide receivers. Chris Godwin, saw 6 targets last week, saw 3 the week before after the monstrous game that he busted with. He had 10 targets, but good process play, bad actual play, bad results play. But I'm not on Godwin this week if D-Jax is back. Too many mouths to feed. If D-Jax is out, fine, Godwin's in play, but not as much. But Curtis Samuel, 13 more targets. Did he get a lot of points? No. Has he been somebody that's been heavily involved? And for 4,200, I'm only looking for 12 fantasy points out of him. 8, if he gets 7, 8, 9 targets, somebody does have the ability to take a short pass and turn it into a long one. He's not going to see as many deep shots down the field, but they are finding new and exciting ways to get the ball in Curtis Samuel's hands. And at 4,200, I think he's a great way to finish off this first look lineup. And that's what I've got. Patrick Mahomes and Travis KELCE, Elijah McGuire, Brian Hill, Chris Carson, Davante Adams for the narrative, DaeSean Hamilton for the facts, Curtis Samuel for the big playability and high volume at low ADOT, and the Bills defense at home against Miami's turnover-prone and very injured offense. That's what we got for this week. Thank you guys for joining. I appreciate all the support throughout the year. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Definitely drop a like on this video and let me know down below how your holiday season went, how your football season went, how you've been doing recently. I'd love to hear from you. And please click the description and show more, because I would love to see you on Twitch, as we're going to keep streaming all throughout the year, not just during NFL season. And I'd love to say hi to you. So drop by and I'll catch up to you guys later. Bye.